So let me go back to the time that I met Saurabh and why I'm so happy that he is here. So I'm going to say things that I don't think he also knows. He's played a very major role in my life, and I am in deep gratitude to him. My father is not there in this world anymore, but I did go to him 2 years before my father expired. And I know him much before that. But there was something very significant that happened. I went and I sat down in his little room. I don't think he remembers. But he said something that was very significant. He said, "You are having a closure with your father for not this life, but for lifetimes." He doesn't know how truthful that was. And that was the day. So let me go back to the last day of my dad's death. I was running my program. And like you guys say, she's very committed, nothing comes in the way. That takes a lot. So on that day I was running my show program. Papa wasn't well at all. Came back home and he held my hand and he touched my face. He could hardly talk. And he said, "I love you." And his words, "I love you, kaam dil laga ke karna," work with your heart, and you are my star. These are the 3 lines that he spoke. I told my mom, "He doesn't look okay. Do you want me to stay back?" And she said, "Nahi, go back home and have your dinner." 15 minutes after he had said this, he wasn't there. And you, Saurabh, stayed in my heart because you said, "I will have a closure with him for lifetimes," and that's how it felt. It just, you're muted. You can unmute yourself, Saurabh. And so that was the first time that I actually believed in what Saurabh was actually doing, because before that, it all sounded like mumbo jumbo to me, really. Significantly, it sounded like mumbo jumbo to me, because if I go back, my journey with him goes back at least 9 years before this, when Zambala happened in Goa. And that's where we kind of jumped into each other. So I had my program on meta health, and I was a novice, an absolute newbie in the market. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was very passionate. And then I see this man sitting on the chair, double chair, literally, and doing something, like doing something. And his show was immediately after mine, and I couldn't figure out what he was doing. But his aura, his personality, his basic being there attracted me. I couldn't move from there. I stood there and watched the whole program, left with my thoughts whether this is true or not true. Here I present to you a man who had the opportunity to change my life, because he made me go into the depths of my soul that I had refused to go. There is a world beyond our world, a world that is not visible. But for some, that's so visible that the other world doesn't seem normal. So over to Saurabh. I don't know whether I've done any justice, but to be really honest, I can only say this, Saurabh. You are amazing. Continue doing what you're doing. And it's such a pleasure to have you on my show today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm very touched, Anu, and I didn't know most of what you just said, so thank you. Thank you for that. You know, you used the word mumbo jumbo twice.
Yes.
And I'm laughing because that's exactly what I thought this was, till I sort of very accidentally slipped into all of it. So I would have been one of those people saying mumbo jumbo like you. So my topic for today is demystifying mediumship and spirituality. And I hate people who drone on endlessly. So I'm going to speak for a very brief period, after which I would like to open it to questions so that it can be an interactive session. I'm not going to lecture for an hour, I assure you. But I will just very briefly tell you how it all began for me. I'm from Mumbai. I always wanted to be a theater actor. I wanted to study internationally, and I went off to New York, and I was studying method acting there for many years, working, acting. And circumstances brought me back to Bombay, uh, more or less against my will, after 10 years in New York. And my whole focus was only going to be acting. And my mother, who was very interested in the esoteric always, allowed a friend of hers who was a medium to work out of our house once a week. So since I was back, as and when I was home, I would sit in on the meeting. And just out of pure curiosity, there was nothing else. And one day in the meeting, the medium turned to me and said, "You have the makings of a medium. Would you like to train?" And I thought, okay, let's just give it a shot. Let's just see. And really, that's how it all opened. So when people ask me amusingly, did you awaken at the age of 5? And did you always know that you had this ability? I say nothing. I knew nothing till I was 35, and that's when it all opened out. But having said that, I do want to say what mediumship is, because many people have a very mistaken view, and they only imagine people in robes sitting in dark rooms with candles and contacting the dead. And indeed, that's a branch of mediumship, but that's not mediumship. Mediumship is accessing a flow, which is something that's our right, all of us. Except we who are public mediums, and I am a public medium, have the ability to do it at will, of choice, for the benefit of people. So there is, guys, something out there. I'm very practical. I'm not particularly religious. I'm a spiritualist. And what is spiritualism? Spiritualism is just feeling a flow. It's a flow with the divine. So when you see a performer, a singer, an actor, a musician, really in the flow, that is channeling. When you see someone doing something from their heart, with their heart and soul, that's channeling. My branch of channeling is accessing information and sharing it with others. But all of this is mediumship and channeling. So when I work and I say I connect with master energies, I do. But I like to explain what and how I do it. So I have the ability, with training, and I guess with some innate ability also, to be able to open to what I call is the reservoir of energies. So there is a reservoir of Jesus frequencies, and a reservoir of Sai Baba frequencies, and a reservoir of Muhammad frequencies, and so on. And a medium has the ability to open up to the reservoir and access the frequencies and be the channel for the master to speak to the group or the person. I always tell people, suppose hypothetically on a day I'm channeling Sai Baba. It doesn't mean he's sitting in my body or that I have any exclusive rights on him. I am opening to the reservoir and I am the channel. And technically, he could be doing this through hundreds of mediums worldwide at the same time. So that's just a flow. My work is what I call growth and development. So different mediums have different perspectives. Some people focus on connecting with people who've passed over. That happens through me sometimes, but that's not my focus. My focus is growth and development. In short, I'm a teaching medium. So the kind of information I get when someone comes for a one-on-one session is for their evolution. It's not predictive, or let's rephrase that. It's rarely predictive, And it's certainly not a direct connection. It's helping them open and understand what they need to in that moment in time. I'm going to give you a couple of examples to make this clear. But I want to first very briefly touch on spirituality, because this again is a very misunderstood word. And I find a lot of people replace spirituality or use it as a substitute for religion. And it's not. Spirituality, again, is being connected. It's just, again, being in flow. So it's not about being goody two-shoes. It's not about giving up something unless you feel inclined to give it up. It's not about trying to live the life of a saint. To me, spirituality is indulging in everything in life that I choose to indulge in. Very practical, earthly stuff. And at the same time, trying to be in flow, trying to be in sync primarily with myself and, of course, with the people around me. So to me, that's spiritual. It's not about running off into the mountains, at least for me. And in one of my channelings, the masters very clearly said, it's now the era for all of us to be the living master. Now, what does that mean? It's very easy for any of us to go and sit on a mountaintop in the Himalayas and meditate. The air is fresh, no mobile phone is ringing. You're all in that wonderful pure state. You can be really connected. It's very, very hard to be driving a car in the chaos of Bombay traffic and stay balanced. That's living master. That's being involved in your daily life and still keeping on working towards finding a center, a balance, a stability. So I think that's what spirituality is to me, and that's what we're all working towards. To give you an example of the kind of session I give, and by the way, this is not at all self-promotion. I don't mean it to be that. I want to answer spiritual questions, but I'm just giving you an example of how meetings can happen for me. Sometimes people come wanting to know about a relationship or their issue with their jobs. Many people come to me for higher esoteric work, which is really my forte. And as I said, I don't get predictive answers, but I get guidance as to why you're creating this and how you can shift it. But I've also found very, very often meetings go in a direction that the client certainly doesn't expect, and I certainly don't expect. But I've learned to trust that if it goes that way, it's the right session for the person at that moment in time. And I'm going to give you actually a very dramatic example. Now, understand most of my sessions are not as dramatic as this, but this is a dramatic example. A friend of mine, who is herself a spiritualist, wanted to bring her group of 15 ladies to meet me. Now, normally I don't do that. I would do it one-on-one. But she said, no, our whole spiritual group would like to come and meet you. So I said, fine. And in come these 15 ladies. And I'm going to describe them because it has pertinence on what I'm saying. They were all middle to elderly. I would say 55 to 80. All pretty, let's say, orthodox Indian ladies. Lower middle class, orthodox, quite sort of straight-laced. And I don't mean this rudely. I'm explaining this for a reason. And they just wanted some sort of spiritual guidance from a master that would come through. So I sat down with these 15 ladies and my friend, and I started to channel, and a certain energy came through. And started the session by saying, all right, ladies, put your hands on your wombs. energize yourself, give yourself energy here. And these ladies were very, very taken aback and rather confused. And the entire session turned out to be womb healing, womb energizing, womb cleansing. We never moved beyond the womb. And at the end of the session, the master said, any questions? And they had no questions. They were all sort of frozen with fear because they were very embarrassed about this whole basically womb and vagina talk. Now, when I'm channeling, I'm in a very comfortable zone like a doctor. You're not emotional. But of course, when you come out of it, you become very human again. And I started feeling terribly, terribly embarrassed, thinking I've really gone off track. Something's gone very, very wrong here. And I ended the meeting and I did serve them a cup of tea, but I was trying to hide basically because I kept saying something's gone very, very wrong. Why has this happened for these ladies? One by one, these ladies started to come to me privately, sort of saying, excuse me, can I talk to you privately? And it transpired, I think 3 or 4 of them had cancer of the womb. Several were rape cases. One lady, in fact, who was the oldest in this group, she was close to 80, tells me privately, my husband and his brother have been sexually sharing me for all my life and I don't know how to stop it, and so on. Every one of those 15 ladies had a major sexual issue. And because they were traditional and, let's say, rather straight-laced, they would never have ever considered going to therapy. It wouldn't have been in their structure. So in the meeting, each one of them thought, oh my God, it's all about me and I can't speak up because I'll embarrass myself in front of everyone else. So after about the 9th lady came to me, I took the group leader aside, who, as I said, happens to be a friend of mine. And I explained to her, I said, look, I understand now what's happened. These ladies all have major sexual issues, rape, cancer, all sorts of issues. They are never going to go to therapy, but they trust you. You are a woman and you are a spiritual guide to them. So I'm going to ask you to, for the next 3 months, open this to sort of group therapy with them and help them understand they're not alone and help them talk it out because they'll never do it anywhere else. At which point, my friend, the group leader, looks me in the eye and says, Sohrab, I was raped all through my childhood. So I said, oh my gosh, okay, who better than you to start the ball rolling with them? You share your story. You become one of them. Then they will open up. And indeed, she did this. And apparently, they went on with this group therapy, not for 3 months, but for over a year, which these ladies needed. So now this, as I said, is a very dramatic example. Most of my sessions are not like this. But this is how, in my opinion, growth and development can happen. They didn't come for this, but this was what was necessary for the day. I have umpteen other stories like this, but I'm not going to rattle them off one by one. So I will open it to questions in just a minute. But I'm going to give you, since COVID is so very current, I'm going to give you a very brief analysis as I see it. And my statement to anyone I meet for the first time is, I'm not trying to convert anyone. I'm not trying to convince anyone. I am here to share what I get. And in fact, I insist that you process and decide if it fits with you or not. If it doesn't fit, throw it out. If it fits, work with it. Because everything doesn't fit with everyone. So from my understanding of the current situation, I am going to speak of it. That would have been probably the first question, so let me just speak of it. First of all, I laugh at myself. I truly do, because I realized from about October of last year, I've been talking about it and not even realizing I'm talking about it to my clients. And I've said things like, 2020 is going to be a magic carpet ride into the unknown, where it's going to be very difficult to plan anything permanent. I was telling people that two areas are going to be tested in 2020, anything to do with money and health. And sure enough, COVID does both. I was telling people that it's very important to stay balanced through the money health testing. Otherwise, if you get swept up with the emotion of it, you tend to sink. And I was also telling people that it's like a battlefield coming up ahead, and we have to be light workers, all of us, who are the first wave of energy doctors on the battlefield, helping and serving and enlightening people in any way we can. Whether you give service physically as a doctor, or whether you give service by giving food or donations, or whether you do energy work, or whether you pray, whatever your way is. But it's so important to give of yourself, because this is a year of service. It's a year of service. It's time to give back. So what I've been urging people in general, since we're mostly in lockdown, is to roughly divide your day into 3 parts. And I don't mean 3 equal parts. You will decide the division. But these 3 aspects should be looked at ideally every day. The first is obviously work, whatever you work at, whether it's doing business on the computer, or whether it's cleaning your floor or cooking your food or taking care of your kids, that's work. The second part is self-analysis. Really, really looking at the wake-up call. And I'll come to that in a minute, as to what's going on in me. If you're depressed, or you're angry, or you're terrified, or you're panicking, or you're worried about money, face it and work with it, work through it. Don't bury it away. And another third portion of the day, which may be just 10 minutes, even 10 minutes, should be put aside your work, put aside your personal self-evaluation, and just give service in any way you feel inclined. As I said, it could be energy work, prayer, physical service, donation, anything you feel like giving back. It could be picking up the phone and talking to a friend who's in trouble and calming her down. It could be any form of service, but that needs to be part of our lives. Why has this happened? I know there are piles of theories going around, ranging from extreme conspiracy theories to the US has done it, China has done it, X has done it. I'm not even going there today. The fact is, it's here. And it is a massive wake-up call to planet Earth. What I got in a recent meeting is the human race had come very close to the point of no return. I don't mean this in some dramatic good and evil way, but I mean in our callous, selfish, self-centered way. Even though there have been so many groups worldwide talking about save the ozone layer, protect the forests, do this, do that, The human collective consciousness has not awoken enough. And had we gone much further, we would have basically raped our planet to such a degree, it would have taken us centuries to recover. So I choose to see COVID as a tremendous blessing. It's giving us the chance to reevaluate ourselves and our lives, individually and collectively. I can't think of a single world event that could have done this. Not one single one. Had there been a world war, it still would have been primarily between 2 or 3 countries. Had there been floods, they would have been in certain areas. Nothing could have really kept us at home to reevaluate ourselves and to wake us up more than this. And this is so, so vital. So the awakening comes with your self-analysis, and everyone has their own awakening or areas of awakening. Some people really are looking at, I've spent my whole life chasing money. Maybe this is the time to really enjoy family and balance my life in the future. Other people might be saying, I've neglected relationships. I need to look at that. A third person may say, I've taken so much for granted. This is the time to start appreciating all that I have and had, and so on. So it's a time for awakening. And I am working with on my own and with certain high-level groups on the human collective consciousness. And we are seeing a shift even in these 2 months. But truly, the shift is not enough. It's getting better, but it's not enough. And if we don't awaken as a collective enough, there will be a second wave and a third wave and a fourth wave. Guys, I'm not here to spread doom and gloom. And this is not some punishing God striking us down with a thunderbolt. Please don't go there. This is our own collective consciousness giving us a shake. Think about it practically, as above, so below. If you have a child who is going wayward and perhaps stealing and thieving and going into drugs, as a parent, your first step would be gentle treatment. Ideally, of course. I'm not talking about beating up your child. I'm talking about gentle treatment, which is talking to him, trying to understand why this is happening. What's the issue behind it? If that doesn't work, you go into stronger treatment. Maybe insist he go to therapy. Maybe insist there is some kind of exposure of this. And if even that doesn't work, eventually he goes to a remand home or he will get jailed. It's not some punishing God. This is steps for awakening. So in the same way, if we collectively don't wake up enough, there has to be more waves. And we need to work so that the collective consciousness wakes up, so that more and more waves are not necessary. Now, when I speak of more waves, I don't mean necessarily COVID, though certainly it could be a resurgence. It could be other aspects, food fights, natural calamities. It could even be something I've suspected for a long time, which is the temporary collapse of the internet in vast areas, even countrywide. And that, even if it goes down for 10 days, will cause havoc. You can't bank, you can't do business, you can't trade. Even if you have millions in the bank, you can't draw out a single dollar or a rupee. You're really paralyzed then. We don't want to go there. So I'm saying we need to awaken. And my last point now, before I open it to questions. I was recently shown in a meditation a really hopeful scenario where I was literally shown the next 7 years, starting from 2020. To explain this scenario, I need to backtrack a moment. In 2017, I did a public channeling in which the master said through me that 2024 would truly be the dawning of a new era on earth. And I remember coming out of that channeling and thinking to myself, I know I've channeled this, but this is rubbish. It can't possibly happen in 7 years. How? It'll take 70 or 700 years for the earth to change. 7 years? No way. Look how the earth has changed in 2 months. It's possible. So what I was shown was 2020 up to 2024 is a period of rebuild. We've got to relearn. We've got to work with new structures. And yes, the world economy is going to be hit. It's not going to come back in 6 months. It's going to take 3 or 4 years till things get back to, let's say, a semblance of normalcy. So 2024 is very likely to be the dawn of a new era, but not quite in the way I saw it. It's not about an Eden on earth. It's more about industry back in action, our lives back in action, but with completely new worldwide laws. For example, companies and factories allowed to function, but they're not just allowed to dump all their garbage into the sea. They have to work it out. Or the carbon footprint has to be very, very minimal. We will be allowed to mine, but we won't be allowed to overmine. We will be allowed to cut down trees, but we won't be allowed to rape an entire Amazonian forest, and so on. So these sort of worldwide laws will come in by 2024. And as they get implemented, 24 to 27 is likely to be a really shining era. And then I really saw 2027 as, I don't want to say a brave new world, but a brand new world. So I'm hopeful, guys. Of course, this is dependent on us awakening as a collective. And if we refuse to, then this timeline will also go awry. But 7 years is not a long time, guys. And I truly believe we are all here to serve in our own ways to make this a reality. Thank you. Now I'd like to open it to questions about anything. It doesn't have to be about COVID, but anything spiritual.
So questions will open, and just like Saurabh said, I would like to put the boundaries there. No personal questions. Please ask questions around what will benefit the whole group and spirituality.
Thank you.
So over to Sneha. She has got her hand up. Sneha, could you unmute yourself and ask what you need to ask?
Hello, ma'am.
Yes. Hello.
Hello, sir. Thank you for your talk, and it's quite interesting because I'm really haunted by some of these spiritual questions which I've not been able to find my answers to, and I really hope that you would be able to help me with this. So one, as you said, spirituality is about aligning yourself and being in the flow. So I have a couple of questions. So I would just, just first ask all my questions and then you can probably answer them. So my question is, how do we, one, align ourselves with, the higher world or the higher, the higher energy that we talk about when we talk about spirituality? And the other question that I have is that of, there are so many theories when it comes to spirituality. Like, for instance, we have this theory of karma, where we do talk about, soul's work, and the idea of how, somewhere we are also, our lives are also destined by our karmas. And on the other hand, we have theories, where, like, for instance, quantum physics has come up with theories about how mind is so powerful, and you have these ideas of visualization, and how mind can create anything that you want. So somewhere there is this, I find that to be very contradicting, because on one hand you're saying that somewhere our lives are also getting destined by the kind of karmas that we have, or and on the other hand we are also talking about how quantum physics is also talking about your mind can do anything. So there is this sort of contradiction that I find, and I'm unable to
These are
find
about
that.
10 questions in one. Hang in there. Okay, you've touched on a couple of lovely points I would like to again share. And once again, friends, I want to repeat. I'm sharing what either I have channeled or what has come to me. And it's a perspective to offer you. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. If it works for you, you can work with it. First of all, how do you align with your own self, or your own, or what you call God, or what you call the universe, call it creation, anything. This is very individual. I mean, the traditional form would be meditate. Meditation doesn't work for me at all. I'm not a meditator, so I find other ways to do it. Of course, I am a channel, so I can do it that way, but I often find music moves me tremendously. So I often sit with a piece of music that really inspires me, close my eyes and let it take me on a journey. And for me, that connects me. I know a lot of people do it in funny ways, like some people go into the zone when jogging, and that really takes them on a spiritual high. So it's whatever works for you, where you feel in flow. And I always say, figure it out for yourself, but it has to be in flow. Because I'm going to say my understanding of what prayer is. We all believe that prayer is basically chanting or saying words of some form. And of course that's prayer. But I'm throwing to you, why would you think we pray? And this has come up in one of my meetings, and so many people answered saying, oh, we pray to thank God for something, we pray to ask for something, we pray to show our appreciation, da 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 da. And the master, talking through me, smiled at them and said, no. You pray for only one reason, to raise your own vibrations. And why? Because there is a universal law that states that everything in the universe wants to grow and evolve. Nothing wants to go backwards. A stone wants to increase its consciousness. A tadpole wants to become a frog. A child wants to become an adult. No one wants to go back. So when you pray genuinely, obviously the key is genuinely, you are raising your vibrations, connecting with source and growing. The master further added that this connection, which is what you asked, is not just about words. Prayer can be walking on the beach and feeling the sand in your toes and the wind in your hair, and looking at a beautiful sunset and feeling a rush of creation. That's prayer. Prayer can be going to a museum and falling in love with one painting and sitting in front of it and going into it. That's prayer. Prayer can be lovingly taking care of your kid or your parent or your friend or your lover on a certain day with the whole heart open. That's prayer. It's anything that raises your vibrations and helps you flow. So for one person, it is chanting words, and for another person, it's walking on the beach. It's how you take it. Now, karma. I do want to speak of that because it's so misunderstood in my perspective. I'm just drinking water in a beer mug, don't worry. Karma is misunderstood by many as punishment. Oh, I did something bad in another lifetime and so I am being punished. And that is a very old-fashioned, and I'm sorry to say, skewed perspective of karma. And I'd again like to offer my perspective. To me, karma is learning a lesson of your own choice. Not some punishing God shoving you onto a planet to suffer for redemption. Not at all. Just as on earth, I always say, as above, so below. If you sit for the chartered accountancy exam on earth, it's a very tough exam, and most people fail the first time. They choose to study all over again and sit a second time, and sometimes they sit a third time. It is not God saying you have to become a chartered accountant. It's you wanting to pass that exam and grow and evolve in the way you want to go. So in the same way, if you have had repeated issues in lifetimes, you go up back into spirit and you reevaluate the self in a very detached manner. And you say, okay, I'd like to work on this. So let me come down to earth and work on circumstances to try and learn my lesson. I'm going to give you a practical example. Let's say over lifetimes you've been a bigot and you've hated a certain community and you've even killed. Okay, let's use words. Let's say you have incarnated as a Hindu and you have killed many Muslims over lifetimes. Karma is not that you have to come back and be killed by that many Muslims. Not at all. It means you have to come back and learn to overcome your issue of bigotry. So up there again, you will reassess and say, okay, I'm stuck in this one area. Let me go back to earth, assuming you choose earth. And let me again go into a rabid Hindu family. And let me again try to overcome my hatred for Muslims, my bigotry. So you will come back, you will be born there. The family will teach you that Muslims are evil. That energy is already flowing in you, so it's going to take off very easily. But you give yourself opportunities along the way to shift and learn. So you might have at the age of 5 or 6, the one teacher in school who really jibes with you, who is a Muslim. An opportunity to overcome that. But let's say you don't take that. No, he's evil, he's the enemy. You'll up the stakes later, and let's say you'll fall wildly in love with a Muslim partner when you're 16 or 17. Now, let's hypothetically say you awaken at that moment and you say, oh my gosh, she's supposed to be, she is supposed to be the enemy, but this person is so lovely, the family is so delightful. Oh my goodness, all Muslims are not evil. There are good and bad in every community. In that moment, your lesson is learned and your karma is over. You've learned the lesson. It's not that you have to come back and be killed all over again. You just have to learn the lesson. But the trouble is we give ourselves all these opportunities, often don't learn the lesson, return to spirit and start again. So that's really up to us to work with karma and look at what we need to work at right now. There was one more point you made after karma. Would you repeat that for me? The mind. I think you said the mind. Yes, you did. The mind and...
She spoke about creative visualization.
Yes.
And quantum physics.
Quantum physics.
Yes.
I can't go into quantum physics today. Actually, that is an area I love, but I'm afraid I'm not going to go in because it'll take us 5 hours. But I am going to speak about the mind and free will. Please, my friends, understand that Earth is not the only incarnatory destination in the universe. It's a little arrogant, don't you think, to believe that we are the only species in existence, when there are trillions of galaxies, leave alone planets and asteroids and other things, and we are the only ones around. A little bit arrogant there. However, let us assume that you can accept there are other places to incarnate. We choose different experiences for different reasons. But one of the reasons that Earth is so popular as an incarnatory destination is because it has an extremely high level of free will. This gives us learning at a very, very accelerated rate. Think about what I'm saying. If you went into a highly evolved society where we've all been at various points, of course there is free will, but you never exercise it because you're always so perfect. You flow with the light and for the light, you never make a mistake. But my God, you come to Earth, it's an obstacle course. And with free will and using this mind, you can walk forwards, backwards, left, right, stand on your head or do somersaults. And through this process, it's tremendously accelerated growth. So I always say, going to an evolved society is like going to a 5-star holiday in a 5-star hotel. And Earth is like a camping holiday. So if you go to a foreign country and you stay in a 5-star hotel, of course it's beautiful and you have delicious sanitized food and very good conditions, but you don't really feel out the country. But if you go on a camping holiday through that country, you have a visceral, sensual experience of the country. You smell it, you taste it, you feel the grit. And the experiences are therefore much more heightened. So coming to Earth and exercising free will and using this mind and making mistake after mistake after mistake is fine, it's perfect, because from that we grow and evolve. Any further questions?
Snehal, do you have any more questions?
Yes, ma'am. One last question.
Okay.
So how do you, how should one deal with uncertainties in life?
Snehal, that's a jackpot.
If you could find the answer to that, please let me know.
No, I haven't.
Uncertainty is part of, as I said, this is a magic carpet ride into the unknown this year. Everything is uncertain. There are forks in the road every minute, leave alone every day. And we have been advised by the masters to go into this year like explorers in the jungle. Either you can go in shaking with fear, in which case you'll have a horrible time, or you can go in saying, let me see what's around the next turn. Let me explore, let me discover. And if you go in with that attitude, which is everything is uncertain because you never know what's around the next turn, you embrace it rather than fight it, you will probably have one of the best years of your life. I love the way I'm preaching this because I'm a Taurian and I like certainty and I like structure and I like knowing what's happening and at what time it's happening. So an uncertain year for me as a Taurian is one of the most threatening things, but it's massive learning and for all of us. Kadambari, I think, was asking a question.
Yes. Hi. Like you said, that for us to get out of this, our collective consciousness should rise, right? Now, me as a housewife with a child of 2 years is just running around, has no time at all. And at the back of my head, I'm always thinking that, you know, I want to use this time to do something better for myself, for inside me, for something that's inside, not outside, of course. So, but then I don't find the time. Is there something that is quick and easy and, you know, something that I can do?
I may look free and easy and very easygoing, which I am, but I jump on people who say things like, I can't find the time.
No, I really can't.
Sorry. Do you find the time to go to the toilet in the morning? Do you find the time to have a shower?
Trust me, that's difficult
10
with
minutes.
my baby.
You can find 10 minutes. 10 minutes. 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That's all
10
you need.
minutes. 15. Yes, so
That's
what
fine.
do I do? Because I'm very confused as to what to do.
Okay. So, You know, guys, all the excuses you're giving me, I've given my teacher. So I'm a master at excuses because I used to do the same thing. I tormented the lady who taught me, poor thing. But that's another story because I was full of excuses not to do this work. Um, no, jokes aside, I don't believe in quantity of time. I believe in quality. Some people feel the need to pray for an hour a day or 2 hours a day. I do it for 3 minutes, 5 minutes. But I just believe that if I put my focus into those 3 or 5 minutes, that's the same as working for 2 hours. And it's an inner belief system that you have to shift. So now, what would you do? As I said in the beginning, it's whatever works for you, Kadambari, and for everyone. Um, okay, let me give you some examples. I am an energy worker, so that's where I shine. So I will do energy work. I will do very high level consciousness work, which I connect with other light workers of my caliber. And we work for the collective consciousness, which is a rather abstract thing. I have another friend who says, Sohrab, this is all crap that you're talking about. And I have no money to give anyone, but I feel like helping. So I'm putting food in my car and becoming a delivery guy right now. And I spend 2 hours a day delivering food to the poor. He's doing tremendous work. Someone needs to do that as well. I have another friend who she's got polio and she's housebound. And she has made it her purpose to make 3 phone calls every day. This is what she tells me. She makes 3 phone calls every day to people she just feels would like to talk to her. And generally, she calls people who are not her friend circle, people who she doesn't normally reach out to. And they all get surprised when she calls, and she just lets the conversation flow. And invariably, they tell her how troubled they are, and she counsels them on the phone. And she's not a counselor. She's just a housewife. That's her service. Whatever moves you, however it moves you, but you can find 5 minutes, 10 minutes to give something back. To give something back. One of my friends is an acting teacher, okay, in the US, very close friend of mine, and he's really frustrated because it's very hard to teach acting on the computer. Okay, so what he's done is he's still holding classes, but he encourages them to do scenes, even individual monologues, on not on COVID, but on how they are feeling about being locked down right now. And through the scenes, he helps them work out their emotional issues. So he's doing counseling and teaching them acting at the same time. He's just woven it into his work. Everyone finds their own. Okay. Any other questions?
Wow, so that was really amazing.
Anu, if I have your permission to say something.
Please.
Yes, Binduji, please go ahead.
I've been connected with Anu for a very long time, and she's very dear to me. And Sohrab, I don't know whether you recollect, I met you about 9 years back. And I had attended one of your sessions, which was the first and probably the last time. I think you should do it on a Thursday or a Friday.
I've always done it on the Thursday up to the lockdown. Yes.
Yeah. So I happened to attend. A friend of mine got me there. And well, we were sitting in the audience and you were on your chair. And I liked everybody on the platform today to know what was my experience, because this will really add. It's a testimonial for certain.
Oh, gosh.
No, you know what? It changed my life. And I would like to share, because most of them look at me today as a guru. They look at me as where I am in life. But I'd like to say that one particular incident, I sat and I was just learning to do certain things in numerology. It was a very basic numerology and I had entered that. And I remember that I was sitting there and then you sat on your chair and you just said, you know what, today the medium is telling me that there is a lady here with long hair and she's wearing a yellow dress and she's going to give us a dictation about the entire year. And to hell with everything, I kept looking around. I didn't know you were talking to me. Suddenly from nowhere, I get up and I rattle off the predictions of 2012. And I just rattle off in the next 5 minutes. I'm talking. And mujhe nahi malum what I'm speaking. I really do not recollect anything of it. And at the end of the 5 minutes, I just sat down exhausted. I never came back to you. I was too scared and psyched. I didn't know, but that gave me the answer. And today I eat, sleep, breathe numbers. And I really, whenever I think back, because that was the message for me. That was what turned me around. I still remember you, your date of birth is 27. I'll never forget that.
Bindu, thank you so much. And I'm sorry, I have no recollection of this.
No, actually, you know, I was so intrigued because this was our first experience like this. And I remember that I'm speaking in a man's voice and I'm speaking numbers. I'm talking about the predictions of 2012, which I had no damn idea what I'm speaking. And it was so it was scary. It was a big rush for me, I remember. But that thing actually did the change in me. So that is my closest encounter I've had with you. I've never had the guts to come back. But today I saw you on the dais, and thank Anu for this platform. And I'd like to share everybody over here. He's truly divine and he's truly talented. And no, it's a very genuine. What you are, he is genuine.
Thank you, Bindu.
There is no frills attached.
No, that I will accept because I'll tell you something. No, and thank you for that, Bindu. I appreciate it.
God bless you. Continue doing what you're doing. We love it.
Bless you. Thank you. You know, guys, many of us are spiritual workers in our own way. And I don't mean, again, channels. Yeah, you can be teachers, school teachers, heads of corporation. That's all dealing with people. And I think what's so important is to work on your integrity on a daily basis. Because you know we can all go astray. All of us. Even when we sincerely believe we're not. And I check myself every day for a reason. And I'll give you an example. When I'm channeling, I have to be pure. But I am also human and I have feelings and thoughts. Now, for example, a lot of women come to me who are abused women for whatever reason. And of course, I'm not a counselor, official counselor. So if I feel they need therapy or counseling, I always guide them there saying you need to go there, but I will see what's coming today. Now, I have been brought up in a family with a very dynamic mother and very elder sisters. So feminine empowerment is very important to me. And my personal counseling to any woman who is abused would be learn to stand up for yourself, find a way to get out of your marriage, do your own thing, touch your own power, which would be my advice. And I have to be really careful when a woman like that comes to me, that I don't just spew this out. Because in some cases, I've actually had to tell ladies, you need to stay in that abusive marriage and learn to stand up there. Because if you run from that, you will just create it somewhere else. And this goes against the grain for me to say, if those words are coming out of my mouth. It goes against my grain. But if that's what that lady has to hear, then that's what I need to say. And this is where you can lose integrity without meaning to, because of a preference or a bias that you may have. Now, my bias is positive. It's feminine empowerment. But that still may not be right. I have to be neutral when I'm working. I want to add one thing now completely off the topic, but back to COVID, which I forgot to mention earlier. And I think you'll all find it very interesting. And I'd like you to think about it in your lives. I have come to the conclusion that in divine perfection, everyone is locked down in exactly the right combination they need to be in for growth. Believe me, I can give you 25 examples of this, but I'm going to give you 2. By the way, this includes people who are locked down alone. Because sometimes people who are locked down completely alone are people who run away from themselves and can't be with themselves. And this is a chance for them to get to know themselves and accept themselves. And sometimes it's a person who's just run away from their issues and they have to look at it alone. But I want to give you 2 examples that I've come across, in fact, in the last 2 days. where I had to show the person the perfection, they couldn't see it. One of my friends, her grouse with her husband has been, you don't give enough time to the kids, you never have. And she also has a mother-in-law who, like the traditional mother-in-law, has been needling her for years, saying you're a lousy mother, which she is not. So what has happened? Her husband, her two teenage girls, and the mother-in-law are locked down in a farm outside Bombay, and she's locked down alone in a house here. She was meant to follow them the day later, and the lockdown happened. So now, of course, everyone's erupting. The husband has no option but to spend 2 months taking care exclusively of two teenage girls who are very difficult. He has no distractions there because his work, he's actually a pilot, so he has no computer work to do. The mother-in-law has to play the role of the surrogate mother now and cook for these kids and counsel them, and they're going haywire, and she doesn't know how to deal with them. So she's getting a taste of what it's like to be their mother. And my friend is thrilled to bits and saying, I miss my husband and my kids, but I have had time to myself for the first time in years. I am meditating, I am dancing, I am cooking, I am singing. I hope this stays on for a while. Do you see the perfection? But certainly from the husband, kids, and mother-in-law's perspective, it's not perfection at all. This is one thing. Another example, which is also a dramatic one. One of my friends in another city has been having trouble with her husband for a while because he's been sort of running after a 20-something-year-old girl, saying, oh, she's like my daughter, she's like my daughter. His feelings are not daughterly for her. And not that I think he's done anything yet, but it's hurting her obviously because it's the other woman. And there's a double stroke here. They actually had a daughter who died at the age of 5. So him referring to this girl as his daughter is really painful to my friend. Now look at the perfection. This conflict has been going on without resolution for ages. For some obscure reason I have not understood, this man had to go and drop this daughter back to her parents' house, which is in another city. He went there and the lockdown happened. So he is locked down with the daughter and her 2 parents in a tiny home, and the wife is locked down alone at her house. So naturally, she called me in absolute trauma, understandably. And I tried to explain. I said, look, first of all, your husband has been given the opportunity to be with this daughter 24 hours a day for 2 months. Now he's going to see her for who she is. It's not all sweetness and light and romantic meetings. He's locked down with her parents in a tiny house, so there's no hanky-panky likely. So that's also taken care of for you. And you are being given the opportunity, separate from him, to really review your marriage and decide, daughter or no daughter, do you want to be with this man in the future or not? Which you couldn't have seen clearly when you were doing everything for him and together with him non-stop. And that's what she's doing now. That's what she's doing. So you see the perfection. If you really self-analyze, look at your own homes. And I don't mean it's all about conflict. Many times it's just about just appreciating people you love around you, or getting to know them in a new way, or getting to know yourself in a new way. So really look at who you're with or without and why. Any questions?
Wow. Tina, go ahead. You've been wanting to ask a question for a long time. And others, please put your hands up, whoever wants to, on the Zoom call. On the Zoom, there is a small icon down. Just go and press that for putting your hands up. Thank you.
My question is about imagination. So if I have an imagination, is that a way that you are connected to source and source telling you, yes, you can have it, or it's coming because I am imagining it, whether it's a daydream or whatever?
You're forcing me now to go into spaces I wasn't planning to go into today.
You see, it's perfect.
By the way, guys, I'm happy to carry on, but we're way over time. And if anyone needs to leave, feel free to leave. There's no awkwardness. Okay?
We have time right up till 11:30. It's just 10 something right now.
Okay, just checking. But if anyone needs to
10
leave,
for 46. We have time right up till 11:30. So you have
right.
a whole 1 hour. Thank you.
So you've brought up the big word imagination. Thankfully, I've channeled all this in the past, so I can just access it in my brain from things I've said in the past. In one of my meetings, they threw us a real curved ball, as they say in America, and told us, you guys on Earth have nothing that you can call imagination. It doesn't exist on Earth. Your brains are not strong enough to imagine. So, of course, everyone said, what the hell are you talking about? And what the master explained is, anything you imagine is a combination of experiences you have had, either in this lifetime or in other lifetimes. And you have put them together and then decided that's your imagination. And they gave us a practical example. They said your current fashion designers call themselves very cutting edge. But what are they actually doing? They are taking a sleeve from a certain era that's been done, and a hemline from another era, and a neckline from a third era, and maybe putting it together in a combination that's not been done before. But every sleeve, every neckline, and every hemline has been done in the past. So you're just combining experiences you've already had. It's not really a creative thought. It's a reassembled thought from experiences of the past. So then someone said, okay, what's a really imaginative thought? And the master explained, they said, again, you're not capable on Earth. But when source separated for the first time, suddenly with the Big Bang, source separated. And suddenly there was a yearning from the separate parts for forging relationships with each other. And that was a genuinely imaginative thought, because prior to that, source was completely merged and there was no concept of a relationship. It was all one. But suddenly when it's two beings that want to have a relationship, it becomes a truly imaginative thought. They even went further. Now, guys, you're pushing me into areas I wasn't planning to go to. They even went further and said, when we say, imagine what you had for lunch yesterday, you're not actually imagining it. You're bending time and space, very Einstein now, and joining together the current reality of whatever the time is right now with yesterday lunchtime reality. And you're just joining it together very briefly. And therefore, when the two timelines come together, you can recall what you had for lunch yesterday. If you have had a very traumatic experience in the past, and you join that timeline to this, you can hold it together more strongly because it's traumatic. Therefore, you will remember the details of being molested as a child much more strongly than you will remember the details of a casual day as a child. So this is all about imagination, timeline, but I don't think I want to go further with that today.
Wonderful. Tina, you have any other question?
No, it's okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Archana, please go ahead.
Hi, Saurabh.
Hey.
Very, very interesting conversation. I'm just enjoying myself. Small thing. You said here we can purify ourselves. We can cleanse ourselves. Can you just give some small tips to the whole group that as a part of this, earth journey, small things that we can do to clear our souls? Anything, I mean, whatever you can say here, practically possible.
You guys are asking me questions that take hours to answer. I love it.
Okay.
I love it.
Okay. I'm
love
sorry, but
I love
that's
it.
that's what came.
Don't be sorry.
No.
He's saying he's loving it.
Love it. I love it.
Thank you.
Again, I can't give you simple step A, B, or C, but to me, the first thing that's coming to my mind as you ask this question is the good old saying, to thine own self be true. So I think purification, again, guys, I'm a very practical spiritualist, okay? I live life to the fullest. I drink, I smoke, I have sex, I live life, I enjoy myself. But I'm also spiritual, and that's how I feel it should. Okay? I don't give up anything unless my body says, no, don't have it. So to thine own self be true means follow your star. And to me, that's the best way of purifying yourself. And I want to give you an example of this. Someone once said, 1 minute, I'm just recollecting it. Yes. Someone in a meeting once asked me in a meeting, what is a sin? And they said, you commit a sin when you take out the godliness, the G, from the word sign. So actually, it's a sign from your own higher soul. And if you remove the G, which is the godliness, it becomes a sin. So a sin has no bearing on morals and societal norms, not at all. A sin is when you go out of alignment with yourself. Let me give you I like practical examples because otherwise it's hard to understand. Years ago, when I was growing up, my whole inclination was artistic. Okay, I should have done arts. I was thinking of becoming a journalist or a writer. And then eventually I wanted to be an actor. But my father, in his infinite wisdom, believed that I needed a business training. So basically urged me in the business direction. And I kowtowed to him because, you just think, okay, he must be right, and you go that way. And then later, when I I think, matured a little bit and decided I really wanted to study theater, the whole world, including my father, thought I was insane. And why would you want to study it? You can do it on the side, but you need to be a business person. You need to secure yourself. And I almost succumbed to that. And finally, thank God, at the age of 24, I said, no, this is what I really want to do. And I did it. I would have committed a sin if I had gone his route. By moral standards and earthly standards, a guy should study business. That's the right thing to do. But it was not the right thing for me. So had I listened to him, society would have been happy, but I would have been committing a sin. I would have been taking away my flow, which was saying, Sohrab, do arts. Study this. So to me, that is really the basis of purifying yourself. Beyond this, I think it's just about being true. Lie to the world if you want, but don't lie to yourself. And just be true about what you're feeling and thinking and work at that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
So beautifully answered. Let's go to the next person, Sana. And others who want to ask question, please keep putting your hands up. Sana Vadwa.
Thank you, ma'am. Hi, sir. How are you?
Hi, Sana. Very well. Thank you.
Sir, I don't know if this question is relevant, but it keeps bothering me a lot. So I wanted to ask you. Since I lost my brother last month, and from that day onwards until today, I have only one thing in my mind, that a lot of negative thoughts, that his wife is alone, how his daughter is going to be living, and I keep taking those things on my mind. What if this, I was in her place, what, and it just is disturbing me a lot. A lot is not the word, so I'm not able to get over this negative thoughts. It's really bothering me too much.
See, Sana, this is a personal question, but I will take it. Can't you be in touch with the wife? I'm sorry, I don't know if you're living separately or living with them or what.
No, I'm in touch with them. I know they are taken care properly. My sister is also there, but my problem is that I don't want these negative thoughts coming to me. I just I keep getting negative thoughts. I sleep with a fear. I get up with a fear, imagining myself in a very bad shape. I, I want to get over these negative thoughts, sir. I don't know if is there any connection? Why are these negative thoughts coming to me so often?
Okay. This, I'm afraid, would need some counseling or therapy, which I can't offer you because it does seem like you're in an uncomfortable space. Please seek a counselor. There is, you can, if you like, afterwards, you can contact me and I can put you in touch with someone who is a grief counselor, which is specifically what you need. But since you've touched this, let me share some with the group. And it's, again, no coincidence. I was talking to someone 2 hours before this meeting about this because she's just lost her mother and is in trauma. Grieving. And I would like to share this because I think it's important for us all to know. Grieving is a very important part of the process of letting go. And sometimes we feel ashamed to grieve. I must be strong, I must be tough, I shouldn't grieve. And sometimes we get overindulgent and completely absorbed in the grief, and then we start wallowing in it. Expressing your pain, your loss, what you're feeling, how painful it is to be without that person is very normal and natural, and ideally should be done either on your own or to God or to a counselor or to your family members, but find a way to express it. It's really important. And everyone's time period is different. One person may do it and get over with it in 2 weeks, and some people may take a year. That's okay. But a part of the grieving that most people are not aware of, which is equally important, is what I call physical grieving. And for the doctors here, I think this may be also very important for you to know for your clients. What the masters explained is when you lose a loved one, or by the way, even someone you hate, as long as there's a strong emotion, there is an energy wrench on the cellular structure that's very similar to depriving an alcoholic of alcohol. Now, you know well that if you take alcohol away in one shot from an alcoholic, he will go into spasms because the alcohol has been, as it were, wrenched out of his cells. When you lose a loved one, there is an energy bond that is then snapped and your body goes into spasms. It may not be physical shakes, but there is spasms. And the masters said physical grieving is as important. So one part of the grieving is the emotional work, but an equally important part is doing what your body needs to help you overcome that withdrawal. So for one person, it may be eating chocolate cake. For another person, it may be having massages. Some people may need to go jogging. Whatever works for your body, but that is a very important part of grieving. It's almost 50% of the work, and we tend to forget that. So please follow that through. Any other questions?
Wow.
Thank you,
Uma,
sir. Ma'am, can I ask
yes,
one more question, please?
go ahead, Sana.
Sir, I want to know, since I'm a Hindu and I'm a follower of Hindu god and goddesses, but at the same time I do like the prayers of Jesus. So, is Jesus and Hindu god different, or they are one? I mean, we can pray to Jesus as well as Hindu gods. Because a friend of mine told me, if you want to pray to Jesus, then you'll have to leave your Hindu god and goddesses. Otherwise, Jesus is not going to listen to your prayers.
Okay, I'm going to ask you something. Does that statement make any sense to you? What your friend said?
No, sir.
Masters, no, and I call them all masters, okay?
Okay.
Now, I'm only sharing again my experience because I work with the energy of masters. I am completely non-religious. I am open to any master frequency, and each one is beautiful. They are not religious, but they have used religion on earth to, as it were, attach their frequencies. Can you mute that? Thank you. So, up in spirit, what they epitomize is their frequency. Jesus, for example, epitomizes love, compassion, honor, forgiveness. A Buddha epitomizes wisdom and knowledge and awareness. How can you give up wisdom and only accept love, or give up love and only accept wisdom? They all flow one into the other. We need names because we have an earthly brain. But ideally, we are being taught to go beyond the concept of needing the name of a Jesus or a Buddha or a Muhammad, and to access just the universal flow. But most of us are not ready for that. It's too abstract. So we still need to hold on to X, Y, and Z. This is very interesting, again, for any of you dealing with children or youngsters. The kids of today are programmed completely differently, and they are responding to completely abstract energies. So for the kids of today, if you try and say, please come, dragging you to church, dragging you to the temple, you're not going to get a response from most of them, because they are intuitively connected with what I call abstract flows, the abstract energy of technology, the abstract energy of music, the abstract energy of cooking. And let me assure you, these abstract energies are as powerful, if not more powerful, than your so-called masters. Think about it. How is it, and you all know cases, I certainly do, how is it a 2-year-old can pick up your tablet and figure out how to use it? And half the time I can't use my own tablet. What is happening to that 2-year-old? Intuitively, he or she is flowing with the abstract energy of technology, which is guiding the fingers and saying, open up. So if you understand this about the youngsters of today and urge them to, in fact, celebrate it and understand it, you will be doing them such a service, rather than saying you have to worship this or that or the other. Help them understand and work with the flow. I've been telling kids this forever. Before exams, okay, let's say you're studying for the mathematics exam and you find maths tough. Sit for a few minutes and connect with the abstract flow of mathematics. Then sit down and study. It will change your whole ability to study. It helps. It really helps. Anyone else?
Wonderful. Uma has got a question. Uma, please go ahead.
Hi, Uma.
Hello. Good evening, sir. I wanted to know, can we burn many life karmas in one life itself?
Indeed, you can. As I said earlier, karma is experience, learning a lesson. So the space at which you learn the lesson is your choice. Some people like to study extra and do double promotion, and some people like to do it slowly. But yes, indeed, you can. But I don't like the word burning karma because that still implies that karma is a bad thing that needs to be removed. I think karma is just a lesson that needs to be learned. And if we understand that, it takes away the negative connotation.
So through PLR, we get to know about our past lives and how we can work on our past lives.
Mm-hmm.
And we can change and we can be guided.
Absolutely.
By the PLRs. So I have done 2-3 such sessions, and each time I have benefited from all these sessions.
I'm so glad. See, all these techniques are literally out there for us to learn. And people often say, should I study this or this or this? And I say, go where you're pulled, but don't go spiritual shopping. That bothers me. Definitely some people need to learn 10 techniques, but I found people will come to me, go to a tarot reader, go to another medium and ask all the same questions. And naturally, because you're then going to 4 people with different frequencies, you get 4 perspectives, and then you get even more confused. So I never say don't go somewhere else, but don't go to 10 places. Go and, go selectively.
Means if we are connected with one teacher, so if we need help, we should go to that particular teacher if we can, if I feel connected.
Not necessarily. There again, I'm sorry, I disagree. I have a lot of clients who come to me and also go to my dear friend Ellaeenah, who's a marvelous medium. And in fact, I often say, and we work together so well. So I say, in fact, if you share with me what happened in your session with Ellaeenah, I'll be able to take you one step up. Then if you share with her what I've given you, she'll be able to take you one step up. So, you have to be, there's a fine line between, going to 2 or 3 people and just going to too many. It's like if you have a medical problem, you often get a second and a third opinion. If you get 10 opinions, you'll go crazy. So you have to balance that out.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Wonderful. Let's go to the next person, Amita.
Hello, sir. Thank you for wonderful sharings that you have done. And as you suggested that we should do, if we are doing any sin, that is the only sin when we are not doing what we want to do. That is what I understand. And sometimes in life, it happens that we take a decision and we feel like that is what I want to do. And maybe I am being stopped by someone else, or I feel I should not listen to others. I should do what I want to do. And later on, things may don't go as per our expectations, and we feel regretted or we feel guilty that we have not considered others in our life, and how to think about that and choose the right path.
First of all, I would never say just do exactly what you want. I would say listen to the guidance and advice of others, but learn to filter. And this is where we often goof up, where we get pressured by parents or a loved one to do something that just goes against our grain. So one should listen to alternate perspectives, but eventually one has to sit down and say, what's right for me? And Amita, of course, there are times where there's compromise, especially in a relationship. But I think even there, you've got to learn to compromise from a space of power and not from a space of weakness. That I'm choosing to compromise and do what someone else wants because I love the person and I'd like to do that. Rather than, if I don't do that, I won't be loved. So the second part of your question was, what if we make mistakes, in short? Actually, we've come to Earth to make mistakes. And the masters have said this to us many times. Earth is a playground. You're meant to keep falling down. But the important thing is don't stay on the floor. Pick yourself up, dust yourself up, and move on. So the falls are fine. It's how you get up each time that matters. And all of this is our experience. Now, obviously, I'm not saying try to make the same mistake over and over again, but that is Earth life and our growth through experience. So if we embrace it rather than fight it, it becomes easier. I mean, there are many things I have done in the past which I regret. I think we all have those. Some small, some big. But I'm learning now to look back and say, but you know, if I hadn't made that choice, I wouldn't have come to this understanding today. So wow, it's actually served me.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Wonderful. I love the way you've put that every mistake is serving us. Let's go to Aarti. And others, please put your hands up if you need to ask a question. Thank you. Aarti, go ahead. Unmute yourself and please ask the question. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, Aarti.
Okay, so I'm just curious to know that we are talking about spirituality over here. I would like to know if you've got any kind of channel message to work with animals. Because I work personally with animals.
Certainly.
So that would be interesting for me to know.
I've had several channelings on animals in the past, several. And so, I mean, I can't offhand just think of something to say, but I remember them saying in one of my meetings how important each species is beyond what we already know. And I'll give you a couple of examples because I'm just recalling what they said. So we all have, I think, studied enough to realize that animals are completely interdependent on each other. And, you know, one bird's bird droppings feeds another animal, and another animal's flesh feeds a third animal, and so on. There's a whole perfection of existence. I also remember them not them, but something I read where they said, if the human race died out completely, planet Earth would come back into perfection within 24 years. But if any complete animal species died out, the whole planet would be in chaos. So sometimes I think we are the virus here, really. But having said that, I remember them saying that each animal also has an energetic purpose. And they said, for example, if all the bees die out, beyond the obvious implications on a biological level, we would lose endeavor on planet Earth because bees represent endeavor. And what would happen is the human race would start getting lazier and lazier and not be productive and not really want to do anything. And eventually that would lead to our downfall. From an energetic perspective of losing bees. And they actually talked about different animals and what they energetically give us. And I don't remember the others, I just remember bees. But believe me, they are God's creatures. I love them dearly.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Beautiful. We have...
Winding up now, Anu, it's almost time up.
Yes, people have almost not put any other questions? Seema, you had one question that you had put on the chat. Would you want to go ahead and ask?
No, it was not a question anyway, Saurabh. It was really very nice. It was fantastic to listen to you. Third world, I can say that is third world that, you know, we were talking about.
About what, sorry?
It was about the third world.
Yes, third world.
We were talking about
Seema,
spiritual world. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean the spiritual world, the third world.
I've not got this.
She's saying that you were talking about the third world, and according to her, the third world is the spiritual world.
Oh.
Okay.
Where did I mention third world? I don't remember that.
That's
her interpretation.
Oh, your
interpretation.
Oh.
That's what I say.
Well, yes, I think there is a new world out there that's in preparation. And I think it's already formed energetically. We just have to bring it into reality now. I so believe that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Seema, let's work with all of us.
Okay, there is one question which one girl had asked at the very beginning, that she has a lot of time and she's not able to utilize them in a very constructive way, isn't it? Hannah, Anu?
She did not say she have a lot of time. She said she has a 2-year-old and she does not have time.
Okay. For that, can I say something? Can I suggest something?
No, I would restrain from it. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take it. Thank you.
Yeah.
And Sachi, it was a wonderful time sitting here and listening to all of you.
Thank you all so much for being.
Saurabh, can we have a last question from you?
Sure.
The last question is something that this is a whole group together. This group started on 22nd of March and it's been going on with its own flow. I haven't done anything to make this happen. It's happening by itself.
How fabulous.
So if it's happening by itself and you're here, it's a great opportunity. And I would say, is there any message for the whole group as collective group that is here? And that's not just the collective group here. It also means the families who are sitting at home. It means the whole group together. And we're not having audience here from one place. There are people from Paris, there are people from Germany. So I'm just talking generally. Do you feel that the vibration of this group, and do you want to say something to that?
Okay, give me a minute and just let me see what I feel. One moment.
Yes. I really appreciate it.
It's interesting that you asked me this question last. What I'm picking up is, in this group, many people have had quite powerful experiences in the past. Maybe not everyone, but most here. Powerful experiences. Some could have been extremely painful and difficult, and some have been just very, shall we say, life-shaking. And what I'm getting is, use the impetus of that, of what you've learned there, to propel you forward, because certainly this group is meant to spread. It's a group of questioners. It's a group of open-minded people, which is the most important thing. As a collective, you're very open-minded. It's a group of searchers and seekers, and I think each of you has a responsibility to absorb little bits of information from the various, shall we say, talks you attend and interactions with each other, and take it back into your lives, your homes, your friends, and share with them. So each of you very much is a light worker. And if I was to label this group something, I would label you the awakeners. Obviously, awaken yourself first and then awaken others. So you all have that responsibility. And I'm just going to go back to my very first point where I said you've all had some vigorous experiences. I'm going to cite the case of one of my friends who was basically brutally raped all through her childhood. And she obviously went into great trauma, had a lot of therapy after she got married. Luckily, she married a wonderful, very supportive man. And she used that as an impetus, rather than going the depressive way, to start campaigns in the schools in the city in which she lives of improper touch and teaching kids about, standing up for themselves, etc., etc. So she turned what could have been a very negative experience into a very positive one. And I have the sense that many of you have had what you would term negative experiences. It may not be rape, it may be other things, but you are awakeners and you have the absolute ability to change these and transmute them into positive. And if you haven't already done so, this is the time to do it.
So this is how I'm feeling. There are two more people asking questions. You have a choice to say a no, or you have a choice to take it.
By all
yeah.
Take.
Okay, wonderful. So there is Izhar Khan.
Hi.
Hi, sir. Sir,
Hi.
I just wanted to know, at times we see certain scenes in our lives and we feel that we have already seen this. I understand the past can be seen, but I just wanted to understand because it happens with all of us. And we have some current scene and we realize that we have already seen this long back. So how is that possible? So how are we able to see which is going to come? So the new comings. Sorry, I don't know whether it's a relevant question or not, but
it affects everyone. I mean, the feeling of deja vu is very common with many of us, and especially people who are on this path. You get a sense of, I know this, I've seen it. Again, you're forcing me to go into areas I wasn't planning to. But I do a lot of work with my group, with time. And we have to understand that time is actually not linear, it's simultaneous. On Earth, we live in a three-dimensional reality where we see yesterday is the past, today is the present, and tomorrow is the future. If you remember, we learned a timeline in school with little dots on it, and you learned past, present, and future. But from a universal perspective, time is simultaneous. So, very briefly, I can't go into this in detail. On Earth, we see past lives as behind us and future lives as ahead of us. But actually, our lifetimes are all running simultaneously. And if I can give you an example of this, imagine your higher soul to be a giant multiplex theater in which there are hundreds of movies running at the same time. But in one movie, you're playing a 17th century cowboy, and in another movie theater, you're playing a current you, and in a third movie theater, you're playing a 27th century scientist. But it's all happening at the same time from your higher soul perspective. And because there is a flow of some sort between these energies, we experience what we call deja vu because we're actually experiencing it in another existence. Now, this is complicated, I know, but I think that's as far as I can go today. So, for example, let me give you a practical example. My friend was a garment exporter, elderly lady, and she went on a business trip to Germany for the very first time. Germany. I'm not sure where she was, but I think it was Munich. I'm not sure. I can't remember. And she landed there, never having been to Germany or understanding the language, and got into a cab who got lost. And she found herself directing him to the hotel, saying, now take a left and you'll come to the church and take a right. By the way, this was pre-GPS days. And he looked at her and said, oh, you know the city? And she said, no, I've never been here before, but I just know this. And then at business meetings, she found herself understanding German, but she couldn't speak a word and never has understood it before. So in ways, this was a sort of deja vu experience. Just, I know this city. What she probably was tapping into was a simultaneous experience of her being a German lady in that city, in another reality. And she was able to merge the two timelines very briefly.
Wow.
Thank you, sir. Briefly,
this is not the only answer, but this is the major one.
Sorry, sir. If Anu, can I please add one more thing here?
Please go ahead, Izhar.
Go on, what the hell?
I mean, that's why I asked him. He can say a no or he can continue.
Oh, no.
Yeah, sir, just one more thing. which is always bothering us whenever we dream of something, and it is a very good one. The case is, if it's a bad one, of course no one wants to go back, but once it's a very good one and we are just into something, and then suddenly we get up with whatever reason and we just try to go back to that particular dream again. So why we cannot connect to those same timelines, sir? I don't know if
No, this I don't quite understand. You mean when we go back to try to sleep, we can't connect to the same dream?
yeah, yes sir.
I honestly don't know the answer to this. So sorry, can't
No,
answer.
no
Maybe it's
Okay,
problem.
sorry, no, not a thing.
no, I would be happy to answer if I did, but I can share something about dreams, and I'm not a dream therapist. There are dream experts you can speak to, but most of them analyze dreams on a psychological basis. There's much more to it. But I will share a little, which is not your answer, but just a little about dreams. From my understanding as a spiritualist, there are levels of dreams, and I think it's important we at least be aware of this. There are what I call deeply premonitive dreams, where you see tomorrow morning flight 101 is going to crash. Okay? It's a specific premonitive dream or a vision. If you get something like that, it is your responsibility to attempt to alert anyone you know, um, and just give them a warning. But it is not your responsibility to chain them or lock them in their house and forbid them to go. You have been given this to be able to jolt someone, and if they agree to it, well and good. And if they don't and they go and die on the plane crash, that is still their choice. Then there is a second level of premonitive dreams, which is a general awareness of something that's going to happen. For example, a friend of mine, a month before 26/11 happened in Bombay, got visions of terrorism in Kolaba. She didn't know where. She didn't see the hotels or anything, but she got the word terrorism and she got the word Kolaba. So she told a lot of her friends, look, in a month's time, please be careful in this area because something is going to happen there. But she had no knowledge of what exactly, so she couldn't alert anyone specifically. In which case, you just send energy and light and ask for the event to take place in the smoothest possible manner. And then, of course, there are other dreams where it's basically the wanderings of the mind. And that I don't even think necessarily needs analysis unless it's very repetitive, then there could be psychological issues. But I think you'd need to consult a dream therapist for this. I'll take one last question now. One last question, guys.
Last question is by Divya, and that's where we end the question answer session. Yes, Divya.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, yeah. Considering that we live comparatively simple lives, and then suddenly something just crops up. So, what is? I know it may be a very huge topic, but then if you could just give us a brief outline. Is there some ancestral karma working on it that these things happen?
What things happen? COVID, or you're talking in general?
No COVID, sir. Considering that our life, like they say, no, your past and your presence, like do no harm, you get no harm. So we live pretty simple lives, and then suddenly something comes up, or that constant discontentment or whatever, in spite of doing everything. So is there some ancestral karma hold, since we've spoken of karma, sir? We have that question always. Hope you get me.
Question. Yeah. Guys, I am open to a lot of stuff, but I also refuse to allow people to get trapped in it. Okay, of course there is an aspect of ancestral karma that exists. There are aspects of vows that you've taken in the past that exist, like vows of poverty, vows of chastity. There is past life connections. So all of these, there is black magic, all of these exist. All of this exists. But I always urge people that don't get stuck in this, because then it's a very convenient, sometimes a very convenient, oh, it's ancestral karma, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. But to answer your question, In fact, I very recently had a case. I'll share this. I always share cases for growth. I never give names away, or sometimes I even disguise the cities so that people don't know what I'm talking about. I had a case where a woman was having, no, sorry, not a woman, a man. Everything was just a burden. Okay, everything was just a burden. You know, he'd start a business project and things would just go off, and he'd try to work out something with his wife and it just wouldn't work out. It was just, everything was burdensome. And when I connected in his case, I got that he had contracted to carry huge amounts of ancestral karma. Now, this is one singular case. I'm not saying everyone is this. And what the master said to him is, at a higher soul level, it's like going on a holiday with 10 family members and saying, I'll carry all your suitcases. Hello? Let each family member carry their own. No, so he's carrying 10 suitcases and struggling along. So they actually made him do a 30-day command process where before he went to bed, he spoke to his ancestors and said, I have done this up to now. Now I choose to only carry my own issues. I no longer choose to carry yours. And he did this faithfully for 30 days, and slowly things started opening out for him. Now, this is one case I had, and it's actually the only case I've had with ancestral karma. But I know it does exist. I know it does.
Wonderful.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Saurabh, just stay back for 5 minutes. We're going to do some card reading for you. You've done so much of work for us and such beautiful insights and wisdom. I felt, I'll be very honest, I felt very grateful and thankful for not giving up 4 days back.
I'm so glad.
4 days back, I said, I don't want to run the show anymore because I was getting tired and I was getting cranky. And then I said to myself, nothing doing this is not for you. This is for others. So you do it because you want to do it with the same joy. And I'm so happy I didn't put a stop to it. I'm really, really grateful for you sharing this time. With you connecting, I always feel I connected back with my dad. Binaifa, if you are ready, we can have card reading for Saurabh. He's given us so much. Let's return back something. It's not returning back. It's basically, how do you put it? It's basically just connecting back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Anu, also, should anyone want to contact me, you're welcome to give out my phone number or my email address, no problem. And they're most welcome to contact.
Thank you, Saurabh. I was just about to ask about it.
So
Thank you very much.
Can I put you in the group so that when you feel like exiting, you can? So would you want me to do that or no?
I'm sorry?
I could add you to the WhatsApp group.
Yes.
And so your number would come there. And would you want me to do that?
I would rather not, if you don't mind. Not because of anything. I'm on so many groups with so many messages.
No problem. I'll just give you a number there.
But I would be very happy if any of you need to speak to me. You're welcome to call me or
that's so kind of you.
And we can always chat.
So kind of you.
And you know something? I'm so glad it was a relatively tight-knit group today and not 100 people, because it makes it so much more intimate this way. So this is really better.
No, I like it. It's perfect. It's just the way it is. I really like this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Binaifa, are you ready, my dear?
Yes, Anu. I'm so sorry today. I've got a lot of network issues. I've just been thrown out of the meeting again and again.
No problem. No problem. So even if you can do card reading only for Saurabh today and then for the whole group, it's enough. Let's do that. Let's put that as a boundary. We've had enough other work. So just read for him, and I'm sure internet will stay connected till then. Okay. Is she still there? Not there? Thrown out by the internet? Benaifa, are you there? Not there?
I don't think she's there.
No, I don't think she's there. Okay, so maybe this is not supposed to be done. And maybe what can be done is we never say no. So I have the card set and I'll pull out the cards for you.
All right. Let's do it.
Just give me a minute.
I think she's just joined back.
Okay, let's see. If she's there, she'll read. If she's not there,
Yeah.
there's always a way.
No.
Okay, just give me a minute, guys. I need to undo and then just a second.
Hello.
Oh, Benaifa's back. Hi, Benaifa.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
She's back.
Anu's gone running to get cards.
Okay.
Benaifa's back, Anu.
Oh, how beautiful. Go ahead. Can't hear you, Benaifa, my dear.
Can you hear me? Sorry,
Please don't be
know if
sorry.
I can.
Please don't be sorry.
Yeah, I have met Meheru Auntie. And my mom knows her, my granny knew her. So, hello?
I'm here. Yes.
Sorry, okay, so it is so special to connect with you today, and I'm also.
Thank you, Benaifa. Sorry, can't hear any more of you now.
Okay.
Anu, I think you'll have to go ahead.
Yes, I'll just go ahead. You have to tell me where do I stop and how many cards.
Oh, I have to tell you?
Yes, just go ahead and tell me. When do I stop and how many cards? Yeah. Okay, how many cards?
Okay. 4, please.
Okay, all together or after shuffling? One after the other?
One after the other.
Okay. So the first says that this is about your soulmate. Okay, so there's a connect with soulmate right now that's going to happen. Brilliant. Do you want me to shuffle or just pull out the next?
Just pull out.
It just says surrender and release everything that you need to surrender and release.
Thank you.
Hello?
This is the beginning of new friendships.
Wonderful.
Sorry, I had gone on and off again.
Benaifa, just wait 1 minute and you are going to be able to read. Oh my God.
Oh.
Romance card coming back again.
What's that? Sorry?
A romance card coming back again.
Very
So
nice.
there is all love and affection coming for you.
Oh,
and I'm going to pull out one more card from this. This is life purpose cards. Oh my God. It says infinite abundance is on your way. You're fully supported as you devote yourself to your divine life purpose.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That really means a lot for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And this is where we'll end the session.
Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you again. With folded hands, I'm really, really blessed to have you on this session today.
Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Really.
Thank you,
sir.
Thank you, Sohrab. And thank you, Anu, for making it happen every evening.
1 minute. I'm really not making it happen.
And thank you for not quitting as well.
It's happening.
Thank you. Question: if you're getting overwhelmed, why don't you do it three times a week instead of every evening?
I will be. That's exactly what I'm planning to do. After the 30th, till the 30th, I have speakers, and then I will wean it off to twice a week.
That would be perfect because you're still in touch, but it could get too intense every day. You know, it could be.
Yeah. It wasn't about people. It was just about, I love connecting. It was just that I just felt cranky. That's it. Everything just stopped. Internet connections were horrible. I was wondering, what am I doing? Am I forcing myself on people? There was a lot going on in my head. In fact, my mom is on the show and she's the one who keeps telling me, don't stop. I love it. I sleep well at night. So I'm very happy that she sits here and she watches. In fact, she'll call me 50 times if the link hasn't reached. So I'm really, really happy about that.
I really meant what I said about this group. Obviously as a light worker, when I'm working with people people, I can sense their energy. And as a collective, this group is so beautifully open. And that's so important. You know, it's not about, doesn't mean you have to accept everything. It's just open to hearing and learning. That's all that's important. So thank you for being open.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm feeling I'm feeling tears in my eyes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again.
Thank you, Anu,
so
and
much.
thank you, Sohrab.
I'm
God
just
bless
going
you
to
both. Thank you.
stop the recording and put on a song for you guys.